And then it's
Alright, I'll do that one. Where's yours?
Okay, guys. So, I'm Rachel.
I'm Jenna.
I'm Katie.
Nick.
Katie.
And we're doing simulation today. And so in the nature of simulation, we're just going to jump right into the activity. I want you guys to pretend you're a 4th grade class. So we're going to have you clear off your desks, and then after that, we'll let you know what happens next. So everything off your desk.
And it is kind of important that everything is off your desk because we're going to be creating things today.
Okay, now we're going to have you guys get into groups of 4 people a group. So we're just going to switch things up a little bit and have you number off 1 through 4. We'll start at this table.
1.
4. 1. 4. 4. Back table. 2. 3. 4. 2. 3. 4. 1. Okay, so 1s are going to go here. 2s are going to go to that back table. 3s, and then 4 is the middle table. So, disperse.
2's over there. Nope.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I guess that makes sense. Yeah, 3's are here. What else? I got 2 on the whole and I was in 17 minutes. Hey, Bree. Would you actually put this? Yeah. Okay. Okay. So today we're gonna. I'm sorry, my voice is kind of going on and off. Today we're gonna make model houses. So we're gonna give each group a little brown baggie, and it's gonna have supplies or resources in them. Can anyone tell me what a resource is? What do you think of when I say the word resource? Amanda?
Something that you use to like make or do something else with. So like what is like a resource because you use it to like build things with.
Good answer. Cool. So do you want to go ahead and pass out their bags? Okay, so yeah, up here on the slide you can see there's a few requirements. You guys have to make sure your house has a roof, 4 walls, and it has to be able to support these people that we're going to give you, which are going to be represented by little tiny wafers, like little vanilla wafers.
Right.
So you have to make sure your little wafers can comfortably fit in your house, because that's important. You also want to make sure that you can bring your house up to the front table, because we're going to do some testing on it. At the end, we're going to judge each house based on 3 criteria, which is going to be how it looks, how nice it looks, which is important because you want your house to look nice in the community. So stuff like how colorful it is, how like neatly you make sure to construct it, if it has like windows and doors drawn on, or they could be like even actual windows and doors, depends on how specific you guys want to get. And then the other thing is going to be how strong it is. So to like simulate natural elements of nature, we're going to have a hairdryer and we're going to try to blow your house down. So if it falls down or a wall falls off or a roof falls off, then you're going to get points off. And then lastly, oh yeah, is make sure it can support all your people. So your little wafers. How many?
They have to fit comfortably, all their people.
Whatever amount of wafers you got is your people. So
They
So
can
like
fit
staff
comfortably.
of people or do they have to be like separate like
It's to your judgment, but the requirement is that they fit in the house comfortably.
So if it's a little person and you're stacking a bunch of people on top of each other.
Before we get started, before you start seeing your individual resources, does anyone else have another question? I know Nicole had her hand up.
So when you say support the
people, does that mean you want like the wafers on house to house?
No. We,
Inside the house?
no, each wafer represents one person, so one of the requirements is that all of your people have to fit inside the house comfortably. So they in no way, shape, or form should be on the foundation, because we don't live on the foundation. Any more questions? Alright, get started. You only have 20 minutes.
Hey, don't break the rulers, break everything. Can you say that?
Hey, wait, guys, can I have your attention again, really quick?
Class, one moment, please.
Thanks. Okay, you guys can manipulate all the objects except for the markers and the rollers because they're on lent, okay? So you can fold stuff and tear it, but just don't break the rulers or the markers. Okay, continue. I can't yell at each individual person. Oh yeah.
Hey, I'm moving your stuff, Katie. I'm using this as the table for the simulation of your hair dryer.
My hair dryer.
I'm assuming you just push a button and it turns on.
Yeah,
It's an average hair dryer.
this is nice little compliment.
Alright.
We need any water, so just like the wind. I want to like how colorful it is and like the aesthetics of it. No.
We only have 20 minutes, Rachel. Can you say that? Okay.
What if we did?
That's why I was saying to
Before you start, always don't forget that so every part of the house, they have to be planned in like a real house. So it doesn't have to work, but in a real house, you have to
we need to cut the paper like perfect and just crush it. That's genius.
That was very creative. I like the way you're thinking outside the box.
Don't forget to
How do you plan on building your
we'll
wall?
buy the house too. You want your two birds on the paper.
But then you still have some time left. About 5 minutes in. I like the way you guys were thinking. Great job. It might options. Anyway, we point that out every time on board.
So that we can still have the PowerPoint off, but just like in the side.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe parking, like, then it
Hardwood.
Oh, that's why we like cut it.
I like that, I like where you're going.
Oh, that's so cool.
Brilliant, you did that.
Alright.
Okay, groups, if you look on the board, we have a timer for you to keep an eye on time, okay?
Should we cut like one of the little corners? Actually,
Let's just take it.
the staples?
Whoever pays the table over here. Oh, I like where you're on.
And then we'll just cut it.
That's a good idea.
Should we maybe just leave one?
That's fine.
Yeah, like one side for it.
If we have time, we could like cut out.
You still have 13 minutes.
And like you could technically.
I like that. That's very smart. I
Take out this side.
Oh, yeah.
I just like to.
I gave a little more. Like, you can always wait. I'll just.
Can we make that more into this like a long?
Boys and girls, don't forget about the aesthetics portion. We want to make sure your houses are looking nice in the end.
Yeah, Angela.
You can always
Make it like a present.
Oh, and that's really creative.
I like that.
Inside the box. We were all just doing that before we still have tape too. That's really good.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Good.
This is the one that's in the back, this is down.
Okay, and to make it more solid, I kind of shove it in. I don't know. Don't be laughing at your house.
Kinda like folded it down.
We barter with other,
We can say they live in the other. One will be for
Talk to the minutes, go to the minutes.
I guess you're not.
Don't forget your categories, everyone. You have to think about how nice it looks, how strong it is, and how comfortably all of your family members can live inside the house.
Not really sticky, guys. Sarah, you want a couch?
It was actually amazing. Our freshman year into something very similar. So it was a very professional that I did. Yeah, I mean, it's something about us. Obviously, after all these years, it was my very first semester of high school, of college. So still stuck with me. We're talking about global distribution of wealth and population size and how that affects yeah.
8-minute warning.
So we have a lot of work in it.
Yeah, it looks like it.
And the law library.
So cute. She made me want that. Take credit for it.
We have a vegetable house.
It won't go over to the soul. It's really
Wait, start, take the cereal.
Yeah, we don't have any food on the table. Should we just like put it
It's a lot of food. Staple like grain and place. You can staple the room.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
Yeah.
But what?
We could probably get one.
I already drenched it.
Oh, yeah, good idea.
You have nothing to do. And then they'll be like, you didn't tell us that.
I think that
I want it to like visual. I want it like alright. I can't be like, well, what's wrong? If I leave mine, it wasn't.
Do you have any flowers left?
I know it looks strong in my test, but really,
right now.
What about the other side?
Well, this one, we can use this big one, so like this.
no, hey, we were in.
We're at 4 minutes left.
Or, you know what,
It's okay because anyways.
Whose tape is this? Someone didn't even take advantage.
string it all together.
Okay, so Allie needs to.
Who cares? You do that one, and I do that one. I think it was the comfortable one. Oh, that was you too.
Wow.
In the window.
I need like a heavy tool.
Yeah,
Wash out.
I don't think I need that.
We're at 2 minutes left.
All right, 2 minute and a half. Make sure you meet all the requirements.
And it can be mobile up to the front. I was gonna take it, but I started using it. That's okay. It's probably not appropriate.
Looking at the sizes, we're listening.
Although I still kind of
Wait, I'm just trying to.
maybe for the judging. Should try.
We're at 45 seconds. Ready? We're at 10 seconds.
Ready? 10, 9, 8, bring it up to the front. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 4, done. Bring it up, bring it up.
Oh, this is running on forever ago. Didn't realize that.
Got it?
I think they should be disqualified.
I think they're unfair to the crowd.
They were done. They were
Switch anymore.
Alright, so judging will now begin. We are going to pick our winner.
Number 2.
Okay, this is number 1. Let's
Wait,
put them in
order.
Yeah, thank you.
So this is group 1s, right? Representing group 1.
They have a
Yeah.
satellite TV
Can
and
you tell us about
we have
it?
hardwood flooring,
Hardwood
curtains,
floors,
and a fireplace and shingles.
Oh wait, everyone, wait, only 5.
We have a representative.
Can we, every group pick one representative to come to the front and tell us a little bit more about your house? And we have to be respectful of other groups, so when your group member is talking, your mouth should be zipped. Ready? So who's representing group 1?
Callie.
Callie. So come up and tell us about your house.
Well, this is our house. We are 404. That's our address. As you can see, we have nice curtains to go through the windows. You can't really tell, but there's a fireplace with chimney and a nice swinging door. We have some flowering. We have hardwood floors, which was a new addition in order to sell the house. And we have a TV, and our 4 family members can fit comfortably.
Very nice. That's group 1. Alright, group 2, who's your representative? Come on up and tell us about your house.
Okay, well, ours is ordered wrong, but this is our house, and it's a pretty modest house, because, like, it's not just mom and dad that live there, like, our crazy Uncle Louie lives there. As you can see, they're all in the window. Ours is, like, flood-proof. That's why it's, like, raised up, because we live on the Gulf Coast, so if there were to be a hurricane, we would be very well protected from the floods. We have nice grass front and backyard. Families, yes, they love that. And we have a roof, so that when it rains, it keeps us safe and dry in our beautiful house, which has windows and doors too, people.
Very nice. Good job. Alright, group 3, who's your representative? Excellent. Come up and tell us about your house.
Okay, so this is our house. It's a nice little comfortable house that is around MSU, which is why the roof says Go Green. And it is actually a 2-story house because we have 15 members in our house. So right about here is the 2nd floor, and we have our door and our window, and it's actually a haunted house, as you can see with our little ghosts in the window. So it's kind of a cool house to go to on Halloween, so you can see all the haunted ghosts around, and of course we have our boat to make it.
Very nice. Nice job. Group 3. Alright, group 4, who's your representative? Allie, come on up.
In a modern world, we made it a modern present design for our house. It looks like Christmas. It's a little slum living, but structurally it's very sound. And if you want to sneak through, there's a little back entrance.
Very nice.
Alright, so now we will begin our judging. Mr. Nick is going to simulate hurricane-like winds.
Structures need to be strong, right? These are houses. We gotta live in them. We want them to be able to withstand natural forces. So, lost the support floor right there. Put that right there. Okay. So, yeah, we're gonna mimic high winds. See, your houses are durable and sturdy enough to live in. So everybody is safe. All right.
If the people are falling out.
Okay, go ahead, simulate the
We
winds.
have a real door, not a fake one.
That's okay.
This is my high winds.
Everything on top of each house.
Okay, good, good.
Alright, what would you
like to wait till the end?
All right.
Is this 2?
Three.
That's 3.
Let's do 3.
Let's do 2.
Okay.
All right, I'll go.
Oh, there goes the lot.
Okay, excellent.
So kind of fell apart,
Kinda
kind of
moved a little
collapsing on
bit.
the inside.
Right, so
Well,
I'd say it's a
let's see.
little weaker than the first house.
A little weaker.
See the roof is moving a little bit. The window almost flew off.
Oh,
Let go of it now. Okay. Close call. Close call.
That was pretty good. Lost some doors, little roof action.
I'd say that was also a little weaker than the previous house.
The people are kind of falling out of this one, so they're not going to withstand the hurricane.
Okay. It's moving around a little bit. The walls are flexible. We lost a few people. Okay, we can let go of it now. Okay, so a few casualties. It's probably not safe, not good. So, and the wall got ripped off a little bit. So comparing that, I would like to give group 1, I'll give you a 5. That was very sturdy, didn't move much, the walls didn't give in. The front of the house was a little flimsy, but very good.
It's out of 5, by the way.
Out of 5. You got a 5, good work. Group 2, it was good, the walls moved a little bit, a little top heavy. Not great for high winds, but
That's what happens in a hurricane.
yes, it's good. But I like how you guys were ready for water problems. So I'll give you a 4 there. Also, group 3, it was pretty much similar to group 2. It moved a little more though, and we lost a little bit of your roof. And for that, I'm going to dock you another 0.5, so 3.5. Group 4. I see a wall's missing right now, or it's kind of half off. We lost a few people. Yeah, it's going to get a 2. Good work, though.
Nice job.
Excellent job, groups.
Okay,
Excellent
our
job.
next inspector is going to come in and look at how aesthetically pleasing your house is, keeping in mind how it looked before.
All right, our inspector is Miss Jenna.
Jenna.
All right, Miss Jenna, what do you think of group house 1?
You know, I really love the purple exterior of House 1 and the floral design that they have going on in front. What really sold me is the interior design. So they get a 5.
Yeah. Nice job, group 1.
Alright, group number 2 over here.
That's group number 3.
Oh, no, 3. 2's over here.
Group number 2, I really like the way that you thought about to loft your house up. That's really beautiful. I love your front and backyard. You were right, that is very pleasing for families. And I love the way it's a family-oriented house. However, it is lacking in some outside design with bricks. Maybe could have gone in that direction. So I'm gonna give you a 3.
All right, group 3, Miss Jenna. What do you think, group 3?
Oh, group 3. I love that greenhouse. I love the roof, the front door. It's beautiful. Clearly, with the bows on the side, it's easily a 4.
All right, and 5. What do we think of 5?
I can tell you ladies put a lot of effort into building this house, and I appreciate that. There's a really nice bow on the top, and I like the color yellow, so I'm gonna give you a 2.
All right, and finally, comfort.
Comfort, yes.
All right, Miss
I
Katie's
made
gonna
some
go.
observations earlier when there was no roofs on the houses. And so let's start with group number 4 here. All of your people are in your house. They are a little clustered in there.
Actually, we're missing one. We had one casualty.
We had a
It's not accounted for.
So I would give you guys a 3 because you have everyone in there. They're not particularly comfortable, but everybody is in the house. Group number 3, that's you guys, right? You guys accounted for your people by adding a second floor. The second floor, though, is also a little bit cramped. There's some people on top of each other. So I would give them a 3 as well.
Was that group 3?
Yes, group 3.
They're all nicely spread out before hurricane hit.
Alright, and then group number 2. You guys there's crazy Uncle Louie is taking up a lot of room in there. I don't know if he might need a place of his own. But they're all still comfortably in there, so I would give you guys a 4. And then this house, everybody in the house has their own space. There's lots of room to run around for activities. So I would give you guys a 5. Very
All right. So we add up our totals. And group 1, you are a winner with a perfect score of 15.
Yay! Huge round of applause.
Valiant effort to everybody.
Alright, so now that we have done our simulation, how do you guys feel about this in general? How are you feeling right now?
Are we as 4th graders or
As 4th graders, yeah. Yeah.
My people didn't have very many supplies, and he gave me like 50 people.
Okay. How does that make you feel?
It makes me feel really sad because I was not given a fair
Okay.
How do you think the judging was? Do you think the judging was fair?
No. But we used
Well,
the scale.
Yeah, but we used the scale. What makes it not fair?
Because, you wanna know why? Our grass blew off and you deducted points for that, and that's not even part of our house, it's our lawn, and that is the aesthetics. You don't have it as part of our house, and that is not fair.
But you mentioned it in your aesthetics that I liked the grass.
Yeah, because I was describing my whole house. And their door was open during the hurricane, but they still got a 5. Our people were safe from the hurricane.
How are you feeling right now, Amanda?
Amanda, how do you feel right now?
D-I-S-S-E-D. I'm in 4th grade and I can't say it or I'll get in trouble.
Yes, Nicole?
I feel like the hurricane happened after it was judged aesthetically and comfortably because the hurricane moved everybody around, even though my group won.
Yeah. Brian?
I would just like to commend all of you for your excellent judging skills and determining who made the best house. I think you all did a great job, and I just wanted to compliment you.
What did you guys think about Jenna as a judge? What did you think about her as a judge?
Do you think that was fair? Having one person judge all the aesthetics? Or how nice it looked?
No. Because Jenna liked the purple one, right? Purple's her favorite color. So is that fair?
How would that not be fair? Raise your hand if you have an idea how that might not be fair.
Because it's very biased to what she likes and not towards what's good looking, I guess. Whereas if you had like a panel, there's a bunch of different people and all their different opinions, it'd be more likely to be a common thought than just one person's thought.
Very good. Any other thoughts on that? Anyone else? What about the people in the house? I was the judge for that. And I made a decision about how much room each person should have in the house. Was that fair or not?
How is that not fair?
Because we went out of our way and made a second floor and everyone there nicely and
And we didn't other groups have like 15 one group and we had 4.
This group had like 30, I think, maybe.
yeah, it was like 40.
We don't know how many we had, we just let them all lay down in there.
So if we compare, let's say group 1, which was the group that was judged to have the best house, they had, what did you have, 4 people?
Yeah.
So they had 4 people, and then group 4 had about 40. How is that not fair? Or is it fair? Do you think that's fair?
Well, it looks like group 1 had like the best materials and the least amount of people, whereas the other group had like the most flimsy materials and the most amount of people. So it's like there is no possible way to construct that to actually fit all those people. So like the uneven amount of supplies is like unfair. Like as far as the people, one being more and less, and then like the supplies given.
What about the bags? Why didn't you use your bag? All the other groups did.
We had enough cardboard.
You guys didn't need to? Did you have any tools at your table as well?
Yeah, we had scissors, glue, rubber bands, paper clips.
We also made hardwood floors out of wooden rulers to weigh it down.
So did the other groups have to be a little more creative, particularly our group with just straws and paper, as to how to make their house work?
Yeah, we had like 4 pieces of tape. Not good tape either.
All right, so what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take all of your like experiences doing this simulation, and we're gonna start translating them to some real things in social studies and some things in the real world. So Judy's gonna take from here.
So earlier, Bree said the amount of resources that each group had was, kind of dependent on how many people too. So we said group 1, for example, had really good materials. They didn't really have as many people in their house. Whereas group 4 didn't have as many materials and they had a lot. Well, this is a map of the whole world, and you can see in the color red, this represents the people, or the very wealthy countries. Okay, so if you look, we have Australia that's very wealthy, we have the United States that's very wealthy, we've got a little bit of Europe that's wealthy too. Which group in this room do you think could be a red group on this map? Raise your hand if you have an idea. Or let's point too, you can point, which group? Very nice. So we think group 1. What about the next color is orange. Let's see, we've got a little orange over here, we've got orange in Mexico, a little bit in South America. So that represents people that had a little bit more money, but definitely not as much as the red countries. What do we think? Which group do we think in this room could represent the orange group? Point, if you have an idea. They have a little bit of money, but not as much as the...
Why don't we put up the number of fingers, which group we think it was?
1, 2, 3.
2 or 3. Okay.
So we've got a little bit of 2s, a little bit of 3s. That's probably a good idea. So what about green? We've got some in South America here, a large part of Asia. What do we think this? It could probably maybe be the same as what you said, or it could be totally different. How many fingers? Which group do you think in this room would be the same? So I'm seeing again, little 2s, little 3s. What about the lowest group? They had blue. That means that they are the poorest group. They have the least amount of money. Which group do we think? So pretty much everyone says 4 on that one. Well, let's look. We have one more graph to show you. And this is a graph, but just in a different form. In the first graph, we saw a picture, but this one has some bar graphs that mean the same thing. It's talking about the same countries. But this way, we're looking at the population, which means how many people that you had in your house, compared to how much money they had. So let's look at the U.S., for example. If we remember, that was in color red, meaning that had a lot of money. So the yellow means how many people. So we've got a little bit of people right here. And then the orange is the world net, which means how much money. How much money is this country bringing in? So what do we notice about the U.S.? So people and money. What do we notice? Can you make an observation? What do you think? Go ahead, Julia.
There's a lot more money than there is people.
Good observation. What about in Asia? What do we notice about this one? These are the people. This is the money. What do we notice? Anyone else make an observation?
They have the same amount of money, but they have like 10 times the people.
That's right. What about in a country like Africa? This is the people and this is the money. What do we think about this? What do we think on this group? Do you have any ideas? What kind of observation could you make about this group? Does anyone know? Go ahead.
Well, the continent.
The continent of Africa, yeah.
They have a lot of people and not very much money at all.
So what group do we think might have a similar situation that had a lot of people but didn't really have a lot of resources? And money is a resource. Which group do we think may have it? Raise your hand. 1 through 4. 4, pretty much. So when we look at this activity, this kind of represents what we see in the world. It's not just in our classroom. This is something that's happening all over the world. People are given different resources, and they have to make the best of their resources, but sometimes it's just, you can't really compare because some groups and some countries have a lot more resources to work with. Okay, so now we're going to transition out of your 4th grade minds and into our TE class here. And Nick's going to tell us a little bit about what we just experienced.
So our lesson was about simulation. And what is simulation? Well, it's a learning activity that presents an artificial problem or event. So we're dealing with these uneven amount of distribution of resources. So we can't go around, we can't fly you guys all to each continent to see this personally for ourselves. It'd be expensive and time consuming. So what we do is we bring this artificial problem to the classroom and we do it and we simulate it in here. It's cheaper, easier, and kind of brings the real aspect. It's easier than me just reading this out of a book. We actually get to show it and model it and simulate it, and it makes us connect it a little better. It makes these abstract ideas a little more concrete. It tries to duplicate reality while removing the risks or injuries. And my example of this would be pilots when they learn to fly. The first flight, we show them how to fly, and then we don't just throw them in $1 million plane and say good luck. You know, we let them simulate on computer simulations for hours and hours and hours to train, so they're not up there on their first time flying and crashing $1 million plane and dying. We don't want that. So we're taking away the risk. You know, we don't want you guys building actual houses with nails and materials. It could get dangerous. So this is a little safer with these little crafts and supplies. Role playing is based on competition, so you guys were competing against each other. It motivates you. It's more fun. Makes it a game. Originally introduced through computer simulations, like I already mentioned. Not commonly designed for elementary ages. This can be problemsome for young people. It's more, simulations are kind of designed for middle grades and up. You can, though, however, modify it and adapt it like we did here to try and reach to younger people. Strengths are it's meaningful. Like I said, it takes abstract ideas, it makes it more concrete so we have a better understanding. It's active. You guys were communicating with each other. It was hands-on. You got to touch things and build stuff. It's integrative. We use sciences. Like, I don't know if you guys knew, but triangles are very strong. So I don't know if that's why you guys did it that way or that just happened, but that's a very strong structure right there in a triangular form. So sciences and math. I don't know if you guys use rulers or dimensions, but we can integrate this and make it a little better with math and sciences. It's relatable. It's easier to see how it feels in that situation. Like, we can bring empathy into the situation and actually feel how it feels to not have a lot of resources, or see how awesome it is to kind of have anything at your disposal. You know, it makes it a little easier to build it. Okay, also weaknesses is complicated rules may lead to frustration. We try to make this as simple as you can for people, but there's also, we could adapt this for higher grades, and we could say, okay, now each of your countries or continents, you can trade with each other, and then we'd have prices for the supplies and trading and exporting and importing. You can make this really complicated, and it can be too many rules for students, and it can make it confusing and not fun. Some students are motivated only when they have an important role to play. So maybe if you're not happy with your limited amount of resources, you're not interested in this. Or maybe you just don't like interacting with others and you'd rather read a book. Management problems like noise and fighting. You guys did a really good job. That was awesome. I didn't hear a lot of bickering, but as we all know as teachers, students don't always get along, they don't always agree, and at a young age they're not very well at arguing in a manageable way. May misinform students by oversimplifying. That's what we kind of did here. We oversimplified it. This is the most basic we could think of how to show you limited resources. This does not mean all United States people have a bunch of money with few people in a house. It doesn't mean everybody in Africa has 30 people in a house in a little mud hut. Some people in Africa are very wealthy. Some people in the United States are very poor. This is just an overall general view of the wealth of the countries and the limited resources. And it may lead to the students that condemn immoral behaviors and unfair treatment. You guys did good on that also, but as I said, sometimes groups don't get along. And also, time consuming. This is a very time consuming project. We tried to squeeze this in within an hour. That's kind of unlikely in most classrooms. You might need to build it up. We might have to introduce this a little bit so you guys have an understanding of what we're doing. It's also unpredictable. here it was good. Every group, we kind of, how we looked at it, was 15, 11, 10.57. So that's what we were hoping for, was those scores. But say group 2 and 3, that could have gone either way. We were not sure how you're going to do it. Maybe group 4 thought of an awesome way to do it, and maybe they had the best project, you know. So simulation isn't perfect. You don't really know what you're going to get. You kind of just hope for the best, and it worked out well for us today. And it's expensive. This was actually not expensive for us, but a lot of simulations are. This is just random stuff we found around the house. But a lot of simulations involve like game pieces or materials they have to buy at stores. And as teachers, we don't have a lot of money to spend on extra stuff. So simulations aren't always the most practical when it comes to monetary reasons.
The main book that we had in mind was for 4th grade social studies, and it was to how to describe how global competition affects the national economy. We tried to demonstrate this through our graphs and the simulation. We could see that we related group 4 to the United States, and how since we have more chance to gain more materials, we tend to have a better national economy as opposed to countries who have less access to materials. One of the things we focused on while we were working on this project was the higher leverage practices. And the key points of this activity were to make content explicit through explanation, modeling, representations, and examples. Just by simulating the activity, it makes the content clear to the students. It can put them in a safe environment and have them simulate a real world event that they may not get to experience themselves. It also leads to a whole class discussion. Everyone was able to share their opinions about how it made them feel. And again, this relates back to a larger idea of how people around the globe may feel about their unequal distribution of wealth. It also leads to communicating with other professionals, because we did a lot of research and looking up data, reading articles in order to gain the information in order to be able to enact this simulation and make it make sense to students who are in the 4th grade level. Alright, with the application to other grades, we said that as you go up in grades, you can add increasing difficulty. You can add monetary values. You can say you have this much money to spend on X amount of resources. You could also talk about exports versus imports. You could talk about trading items with other countries. Some groups had staplers, some groups had really good tape, some groups had really bad tape. You bring in the component of trading those items. Say, I'll give you this piece of construction paper for that piece of tape. Also recognizing trading and working together, same thing, by making it just to be out to be a global community, representing that fact. We can also decrease the difficulty for lower grades, less standards for the house, maybe reducing people fitting inside, maybe reducing the winds of the hurricane that we had blow on houses. And also less variety in the groups. We could make different groups have a lot of the same products. It was very clearly unevenly distributed among the groups besides 2 and 3. For lower grades, in order to meet their needs, to avoid complications, it might be a better idea to give them a lot more of the same amount of materials. And that's the end.
We'll be going around with a little feedback form.
So we have a few minutes left, and I think that you did a nice job, and I just have a few comments and things that we can talk about. So would you mind in the PowerPoint flipping back to the slide with the bar graph for a minute?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I got rid of that.
So something else that could be interesting, if you were to use a bar graph, this one or one that's like it, is that you could ask your students, you could have more of a discussion around this. You could ask your students to really study the locations that are highlighted at the bottom of the graph to see what they notice that's interesting. So if we're just looking at those locations, so it says, again, I need to move up a little closer. U.S., Central, South America, Europe, Africa, Middle East, Asia. So, you know, what might be something interesting that you could talk to your students about just based on those locations that we see at the bottom?
What, like, regions that they're in?
Okay, you're on the right track. What in particular about the regions?
Like what, like if they have forest or if they're in the desert or like there's like resources.
That could be something you could, right?
One of them is a country, and the rest of them are either continents or regions.
Very good, right.
And Canada's not in the program at all.
So, I mean, I think,
Left out.
I mean, that's a good observation, and I think that one thing you can then emphasize with your students is, you know, look at how this is more of an abstract idea. You might be able to explain it in simple terms to fourth graders, but you know, you can say, look at this is just one country and they have all of this wealth. And then these other locations here on the graph, these are all larger regions or continents in some cases. So, you know, you can see that compared the U.S. as a country compared to these other much larger regions have much more of the wealth. So that could be one interesting thing that you could engage your students in a little bit more. Something else too that I wanted to ask you about, so with strengths. So you listed several very good strengths I thought really applied well to your simulation. But I wanted to ask you about value-based. Do you think that this lesson at all would hit on any important values?
I think so, because it starts to come into an ethical discussion of like what's fair and what's not. And I mean, we just kind of touched into it because we didn't have that much time for the discussion, but you could have an entire discussion about like how we could redistribute the resources and like what implications that means and like what value that's based in, which is like kind of equality you can connect it to.
I think even further beyond that, you can even connect to values of specific countries and areas of the world. In the United States, we have more wealth. We value having big homes for small amounts of people that are very aesthetically pleasing. Whereas you travel to poorer regions of the world where you're living in smaller dwellings with larger amounts of people. It's kind of what the culture values as well.
Good. Yeah, so that could be a whole other discussion too about, you know, what values do all of you see being represented here in our discussion. So something else too, just one final thing. So you're talking about potential weaknesses or limitations, which I really liked that section too, because that's an important thing for all of us to consider as teachers. And you mentioned that noise is a weakness. And so I wanted to ask you if you think noise is always a weakness.
We definitely, I wouldn't say see noise is always a weakness, because a lot of noise is constructive noise.
Okay.
So like noise within a group is cooperation. It's a clear sign to the teacher that people are talking to one another and using the materials and being creative. However, if you have like a huge class, like let's say we were doing this as a modified version for a younger grade, and they were just getting like, they were starting to scream, that's like destructive noise, that's more of the weakness that we were talking about in terms of noise. It's not necessarily noise in general, it's like the type of noise, constructive or destructive.
Oh, good.
Or like the school that I'm at, I think a lot of you guys are in North, like how the rooms are all open. Like my teacher, there's no way she could do an activity like this because they have like a noise level they try to like keep with each other. So like their room is always, they're always like quiet, don't do that, quiet. So it wouldn't work in a situation like that.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because depending on the physical space of your school and your classrooms, this kind of activity might not be as feasible. But I'm glad that you made that distinction between different kinds of noises, because in the case of this activity, I think the noise that we heard was very purposeful. And if there's noise that indicated that all of you were learning, you were thinking together. And I think sometimes, oftentimes we think of noise as reflecting a lack of classroom management, but it's not always the case. In fact, I get kind of concerned if I walk into a class all the time and all of the students are sitting in their seats and they're never talking. They're all busily working at their seats. Obviously that's needed sometimes for certain tasks, but other times you need your students to work together and work out ideas, and that's a good thing. So I'm glad that you made that distinction. So good. I think that you did a really nice job.
Thank you. Everyone at their table could just like grab the trash and just throw it in the trash.
Do you have feedback?